Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Guido Vianello versus Alexis Barriere fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video. And this is a Patreon requested video, so this wasn't a fight in which I was originally going to talk about. Doesn't mean it's not a good fight or an interesting contest. I think it definitely is that. I just, as a fight that is on the undercard of Ennis versus Lima, it was a fight in which I was excited to see. But again, like I say, thanks to the Patreon, I'm here doing a video about it and I'm excited to speak about this fight. You can request any kind of combat sporting related content of your own, and that will be if you join the Patreon. The link will be in the description. Thank you very much. But yeah, so to get into this fight, I mean, obviously, like I say, this is on the undercard of Ennis versus Lima. I don't believe it's a co-main event feature, but it's definitely a fight that's going under the radar. It seems like they're trying to kind of pad out the undercard with, a few couple decent fights of the Ennis Lima card, because Ennis is a big star and they probably had to pay him quite a lot of money to be able to, fight. But I don't think the Ennis Lima fight is going to sell that well, because in general it just isn't really that big of a fight. So to have this on the undercard, I think is definitely a good shout. I mean, Alexis Barriere, I think, is definitely an underrated power punching heavyweight. He's a Canadian heavyweight. He's signed with Matchroom, and like I say, he's really going unnoticed. I feel like if he was a British heavyweight that was 12-0 and progressing and being able to get the knockouts in which he's been getting, I feel like he would have probably first of all been progressed a bit quicker, and second of all, he probably would have been a bit of a bigger name. He could have even been, if he was with Queensberry and Frank Warren, he might have even been headlining events at this point. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the promotion in which Matchroom have done is anything bad. I think they're still giving him opportunities and getting him on shows, and again, there's no harm in kind of not moving him too quickly and, like I say, taking the time a little bit. But this is a significant step up for Alexis Barriere, and it's definitely a tough test for Barriere. I mean, he is someone who is coming off a win himself. Barriere coming off a knockout victory against the Mexican heavyweight Quadracindes on a Matchroom show, which was the Eduardo Hernandez versus Rene Giron card in Canada, I believe. And I think this is his first time fighting outside of Canada. He's had, like I say, a good KO ratio with only 2 of his 12 fights going the distance. So again, that's something you want to see with a heavyweight. You don't really want to see an up-and-coming heavyweight who isn't really able to get a tremendous amount of knockouts. But for Vianello, I mean, he's somebody who has seemed to kind of welcome the gatekeeper position in which he's kind of become and gotten himself in. I mean, he's lowly ranked with, I think, 1 or 2 of the world sanctioning bodies, and like I say, he definitely is now a gatekeeper type of opponent. When he was kind of on the come up, he was promoted relatively well by Top Rank, and I mean, he was pushed as an Italian talent, and an Italian talent who had Olympic amateur pedigree. And again, not many Italian heavyweights have really gone on to be able to do a tremendous amount. So again, it was a bit of a new name and a new market to be able to target with Top Rank. But after having quite a surprise stoppage defeat early on in his career, since then he's been matched really hard, and again, he seemed to welcome it well. But he has always been able to test any of these tough opposition in which he's been in, but again, he has been matched incredibly hard. I mean, he had a close fight against F.A. Ajagba where he went to a split decision, which I think is a fight in which I believe has aged well, as of course we saw F.A. Ajagba go to a draw with Martin Bicoli, and again, we're not really too sure what's going on with Ajagba. And then he went and stopped Makhmudov, and yes, that was a Makhmudov who was already coming off his first defeat versus Frank Sanchez, but he was still, a live opponent for Makhmudov, and he seemed to make relatively easy work of Makhmudov. And of course, Makhmudov's also fighting on the same night as this fight as well. He's fighting, of course, Dave Allen. And then in more recent times, Vianello, he went the full distance with Torres Jr., and that was quite an impressive feat, to be fair, because he definitely did well to be able to survive to an extent. He definitely took quite a lot of punishments, but he showed a good chin, a good amount of heart, and he was able to, cause a few issues, have a, not Torres panicking, I don't believe, at any real point. But again, was able to test him enough and go the full distance. And I think that was something in which Torres definitely needed. I mean, I don't tremendously rate Richard Torres as a heavyweight up and coming guy, but I think he's an entertaining name to have around, and I think it will be interesting to see what the next kind of step in his career is. But now, like I say, he seems to be happy in a position where he is that of a gatekeeper, and it is interesting to see. His last fight was a main event for a top ranked show, and now he is happily sat in a lower down version of a card in which isn't really a massive card. I mean, he's probably not getting a big, realistically, paycheck for this fight, and he is just testing a tough up and comer. And like I say, he's not really got a tremendous amount to gain for winning this fight, in my opinion. But like I say, he's gone and taken it, and again, he's got my respect for doing that. To speak about both fighters that bit more individually, Barriere as a fighter, he's somebody who I believe can fight off the back foot well, and I think he picks his shots well, and he can also fight. When I say on the back foot, I don't just mean when he's just up against the ropes. He can also fight going backwards well, which is something which is nice. And like I say, he can walk you onto quite a few shots, which, often Vianello is able to do to an extent. He can walk you onto shots well, but when he does come forward, he is a bit reckless. So again, Barriere might be able to capitalise upon that. He's relatively accurate in his work, I believe, and he uses his jab pretty well. I mean, I would like to see maybe a bit more power behind the jab when he uses it to be able to actually push opponents back a bit more. But again, he doesn't do that too much, but he still tries to use it well to set up. He doesn't smother his work, unlike Vianello, which, like I say, definitely might make this a tough test for Barriere, who, like I say, isn't used to somebody who's been kind of made to be, a smothering type of fighter. He's got typically nice clean work, solid shot variety, which I think he showcased, in his last two fights pretty well. He's got good counters that I think can back you off and can kind of slow momentum if you are coming forwards. He can be a bit of an in and out type puncher. He's not somebody who is going to be light on his feet, kind of bouncing in and out. He's more somebody who will, throw a couple punches, then lean back and kind of pull out, and then, wait until you throw and then come back in with a couple. It's nice. You can see it's well drilled, and it's a good level of discipline there to be able to do that and to not get too greedy when he is throwing. He seems to not have to land too cleanly to be able to hurt people. Again, that is sometimes just a case of the opponent and how good the actual opponent is in which they are in against. But again, it does seem like there is still this kind of a good level of power, which maybe is a bit of a surprising level of power as well. Like I say, sometimes he can land a shot and you can think, maybe it's, not a huge shot. It's not like certain heavyweights where they're landing big club and overhands and you can see the brute power. Again, it seems to be able to come from just a bit more natural power, I suppose, to an extent. He's relatively well patient and disciplined, like I've said, and I think he also circles off quite well when he's on the back foot, unlike I've seen from Vianello. Speak more about Barriere, negative wise, he's quite flat-footed for the most part. He's got a low guard often, he's often throwing from a low guard position, which can definitely, cause him to get caught with a shot from Vianello, and again, that might surprise him. I don't think he's really had to deal much with getting caught too much. I think his chin hasn't really been tested a tremendous amount just yet. There was one fight in which I saw from a little while ago from him, and he got caught with one shot and it didn't seem to rock him or hurt him, but it definitely pushed him back a bit and, make him a little bit uncomfortable. So I think if that's happening against, the lower level guys, I think he's definitely going to have to sharpen up his defense to go in with somebody like a Vianello, who of course does hit hard himself. His jab doesn't, like I say, keep fighters away enough. He hasn't really had to show much physicality, and again, he's been allowed to have a lot of stuff kind of go his own way, and for the most part, a lot of the fight to be able to fight at the pace in which he wants to fight at, which is typically quite a slow pace as well. Vianello can fight at a slow pace if he's loading up on the back foot, but if he's somebody, like he did in the Makhmudov fight, if he's coming forwards and letting his hands go, he can kind of change to fighting at a really high pace then. So again, if you allow him to have that confidence, Vianello, he will capitalise if you are wanting to fight at a slow pace. I think he's quite a slow starter. He can seem a bit hesitant at times. His footwork when kind of rushing in and when he does turn up that tempo, it can be a bit of an issue. He seems to take a bit of, body punishment as well, and he's definitely open to counters in my opinion. And then it's at the same time, yes, he's been able to get a lot of stoppages in his career so far, but when he has gone the full distance, I have seen that he does tire, and then his accuracy drops quite significantly. Speak a bit more about Vianello as a fighter. He's somebody who is definitely able to impose his size. Again, like I say, he's going to smother you. He's going to, probably frustrate you a bit at times. I mean, he definitely does smother his own work quite often, but still, like I say, he's somebody who is going to be able to be physical. I mean, in that a Jagba fight, he was definitely very physical in that. He's got solid timing with the uppercut. That's a shot in which he throws quite often, and is able to have good levels of success. I think he timed one on Richard Torres quite well, but like I say, he's able to have a bit of success with that. Yes, it can become predictable, but it is a good solid shot that you will be able to land with the fact that I think he does have pretty decent hand speed as well. I think he's got a heart, he's got a good, chin as well, and he has heart. He knows kind of how to survive in a fight. Again, he seemed to get rocked and, wobbled a bit by Richard Torres, but he was able to survive and hang on and, like I say, showcase that good kind of survival instinct. Like I say, he can frustrate, he goes to the body, and when he does go to the body, it looks really nice. I would just like to see him do that a little bit more. I think he does carry one punch KO power, but we just haven't seen it tremendously so far yet in the kind of higher level fights in which he's had, but I think he does carry it if he can, land the right shot. He doesn't seem to have a tremendous amount of fear, or really any fear at all, and I think he's always willing to work. If that's when he's smothering you, he will try and throw and muscle you out, and like I say, he's always trying to do something when he's fighting, even if it is just loading up on the back foot and trying to, time a shot. He is always a live opponent in there. He walks you onto shots. He can punish you if you leave yourself too open, which again could be something in which Barriere might have to deal with. And he's quite good at, taking a backward step and then throwing, which again is a nice little adjustment and something in which you don't always see with heavyweights. Negatives about him, I think he stands very tall. Again, like I say, he can sit and load up on the ropes, which again can lead to him becoming predictable. And often if he misses that shot in which he's loading up with, then he'll smother you and then doesn't really do too much afterwards. He can kind of miss that single shot and then, like I say, freeze, if that's probably the best way to put it. He has his head on the line a lot. He doesn't use his jab with enough intent, in my opinion. He pretty much throws a lot in singular shots when he's not having success on the back foot. He is throwing all in single shots, and when he's having the best amount of success is when he's throwing in combinations on the front foot. But again, he just isn't doing that enough. He's quite flat-footed for the most part, but again, he can mix in with a decent level of explosiveness on the front foot, so again, that does vary. He reacts to quite a lot of feints. I think he can be quite hesitant a bit at times on the front foot, and a bit kind of herky-jerky type of style where he's not really fully putting everything into his punches. His hands are very low in my opinion, and he leans quite heavy on his front foot. He doesn't really shorten up shots to best himself, and he definitely can, fling himself into exchanges at times, and he's not tremendously good at, like I say, creating the space enough to be able to actually work in, and like I say, that's when his fights can become a bit messy, but again, leads to him frustrating opponents. Of course, this is for the vacant WBC Continental American Heavyweight title, so that will get them a WBC ranking, and of course Vianello, like I say, is ranked with another sanctioning body. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but around 15th. So again, the winner of this will be probably lowly ranked in the world rankings, which is a really good position to be in, of course, because there is a tremendous amount of good matchups there to be made in the heavyweight division at the moment. Who do I think is going to win? I think that Alexis Barriere is going to be able to win. I think he is actually going to be able to stop Guido Vianello. This is definitely a fight in which I'm putting a bit of a bold prediction out there for, because it definitely could backfire, and we could see Guido Vianello being way too much for Alexis Barriere at this point in his career. But I think if Guido Vianello comes out, being a bit more of the aggressive fighter, I think he will be caught with the back foot work of Barriere and timed onto a nice shot. Barriere, of course, I think I would like to see a bit more defensive kind of sharpness from him, but I think he has really good timing and good reactions to be able to land a good, powerful shot to be able to actually really hurt Vianello. But then if Vianello's on the back foot, then Alexis Barriere might have a few issues of his own, but I think he will be smart enough, like I say, with the kind of pull counters he will be able to throw, where he'll be able to do a bit of work, pull back, then be able to land instead of just walking straight onto a shot of Vianello that he's loading up on the back foot. Because you can really, like I say, see them shots coming. And I think with the power of Barriere, I think he will be able to get that stoppage. And I rate Barriere. I think he has the capabilities to be a good name in the heavyweight division and have a few good matchups. I would like to see him, if he gets a good victory in this fight, I would like to see him progress on a bit, but also get a bit more of a name, get pushed a bit more because, like I say, he's with Matchroom and Matchroom just haven't promoted him a tremendous amount just yet. But I think I think they're probably thinking as well, if he can get through this matchup and look good, then they've got a really good heavyweight on their hands that they really should be pushing more and, like I say, progressing more. So matchups might be a little bit difficult for now for him because, like I say, he's not a major name at all. So I think maybe a Justice Huni fight could be a good fight. I mean, I think Huni's going to have to probably have a fight where he's in the away corner to be able to get himself back a bit because, of course, he's coming off the stoppage defeat to Wardley, even though he was dominating in that fight. But that could be a really good kind of technical heavyweight boxing fight. If not, Jared Anderson fight perhaps could happen. I don't feel like Jared Anderson is really in the position to be able to kind of call out for any matchup at the moment. I think he probably will just get given what he gets given. Or maybe an Otto Wallin fight. I mean, an Otto Wallin, is still a relatively big name in the heavyweight kind of division. Yes, he is coming off the loss to Derek Chisora, where he got dropped by Chisora. So yeah, that's not good. But at the same time, he's still a noticeable name who, like I say, has fought against some of the top guys. So it could be a good name to get Barriere a bit more noticed. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.